It was the early hours of November 2nd, 2025, in Hanover Township, Michigan, when the quiet of a residential street was shattered by fire. Flames would soon engulf a family home on Dancer Road. A father would be badly burned, a house would be destroyed, and two young people, 14 and 18, would be pulled into a criminal nightmare. By that night, 18 believed he knew exactly who he was. He had always seen himself as someone larger than his circumstances. From a young age, friends, neighbors, and teachers had called him helpful, courageous, someone who would step in when others hesitated. He had even received small local awards for acts of bravery, for helping classmates or assisting in emergencies. That reputation became part of his identity. To him, he was a fixer, a protector, a young man who could take charge, who could solve problems no one else dared touch. He believed he had the answers. He believed he could act without consequence, because he thought he was always in the right. It was this mindset that would carry him straight into a secretive, dangerous relationship, and ultimately into a fire that would consume a home and a family. Their relationship didn't announce itself. It didn't knock politely on anyone's door. It crept in quietly, like a shadow sliding under the crack of a room's door. Text messages late at night, whispered plans in corners, secret conversations that no one else could hear. No one could later say exactly when it began, but by the summer it was already well established, and it was illegal. 14's father noticed. More than once he confronted 18, face to face, firmly. He told him plainly, "Stay away from my daughter." He warned him, he pleaded, he demanded. But 18, he always seemed calm, too calm, respectful, even polite, like he understood, like he was listening. And that was the terrifying part, because he wasn't listening, he wasn't stopping. He was calculating, waiting, watching. To 18, the relationship wasn't wrong. It was destiny. He later claimed that 14 told him she was being abused, that no one was helping her, that he was the only one willing to act. By his own admission, resentment had set in early. By the summer, he told police he had already imagined her father dead. He was using heroin, drinking heavily. His thinking narrowed until every problem had one solution. By fall, imagination turned into planning. That night, Charles, 14's father, had spent the evening in a rare moment of calm. The house was quiet. The kids were in bed. He had finally collapsed into his favorite recliner. A beer in hand, the muted glow of the television flickering across his tired face. Bills scattered on the coffee table. The aroma of leftover dinner in the kitchen. His mind wandered through the day's chores, school drop-offs, work emails, the minor chaos of parenting. He let himself sink into the chair, eyes half closed, almost drifting off. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint sound of the furnace, the occasional creak of the old house. It was the kind of quiet that promised sleep. And then, a voice cut through the calm.
"Dad, I smell gasoline."
Charles bolted upright, alert immediately. His eyes darted around the living room, heart racing. The small, ordinary home suddenly felt like a trap. He ran down the hall and saw a small fire flickering in the corner of his daughter's bedroom, barely 2 feet high. He grabbed a fire extinguisher, ready to fight the blaze, unaware that this was only the beginning. On that fateful night, 18 and 14 carried gasoline into the home on Dancer Road. An accelerant, a weapon, a choice that would change lives forever. Prosecutors later said 18 and 14 had planned this fire together. flames would spread quickly. They knew the danger, and yet they went forward anyway. Every flick of a match, every drop of gasoline was intentional. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate, calculated, cold. The fire exploded. The house was engulfed. Flames climbed walls. Smoke filled every corner, and Charles was thrown back by the force of the blaze. His arms burned as he ran back inside, screaming for his daughter, not caring if he lived or died. He survived with severe burns and more than $100,000 in medical bills. While firefighters battled the blaze, 18 and 14 were already pulling away from the scene. Careful, quiet, thinking they could escape notice, thinking the fire would cover their tracks. They ran through the dark streets of Hanover Township, winding down side roads and alleys, trying to put distance between themselves and the flames. They thought no one would see them, no one would connect the dots. But the smoke didn't hide the truth. It never could. Gasoline, evidence of planning, messages they thought were secret, statements they thought could never be traced. Authorities had already begun tracing their phones, checking witness reports, and following the trail of tire tracks and footprints leading from the scene. Within hours, police intercepted them near a local convenience store. Cornered, there was nowhere left to run. Every calculated step, every whispered plan, every moment of secrecy was about to catch up with them. They were arrested, not hours later, not the next day. Arrested, caught, cornered, facing the consequences they had tried so hard to avoid. And that's when we learned their real identities. 18 was Damian Hopkins. Here, a mugshot of Damian Hopkins can be seen. 14 was Alexis Penn. No photo will be shown of Alexis, as she is under 18. Only after the arrests did investigators fully examine the abuse claims. They searched for reports, for corroboration, for evidence. They found none. No reports, no corroboration, no charges. Hopkins was charged with first-degree arson, a felony punishable by up to life in prison. He was also investigated for lying to police and for his illegal sexual relationship with a minor. In court, his defense described him as a young man who loved too much, who believed he was saving a girl. Charles Penn, Alexis's father, stood and told the court the truth as he lived it, that 18 had been warned, that he had ignored every warning, that he had merely killed him to control a child. The judge didn't hesitate. There was no abuse, no justification, and no misunderstanding. "You're the one on heroin," the judge told Hopkins. "You're the one essaying that little girl." Hopkins was sentenced to 15 to 30 years in prison, the maximum under Michigan's sentencing guidelines. Alexis later pleaded guilty but mentally ill to first-degree arson, admitting she helped set the fire knowing her father and sister were inside. Her sentencing would follow. What began quietly between 18 and 14 ended in flames, prison cells, and a house reduced to ash. When the smoke finally cleared, there were no names left to hide behind, only consequences.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.